The sun filtered through the cream curtains of Emily Dawson's bedroom, casting soft gold on the motivational posters pinned above her desk. She was up earlier than usual, sitting cross-legged on her bed, acceptance letter in hand. "Congratulations, you've been accepted into UCLA," it read. Her eyes glimmered, half from pride, half from disbelief. She had dreamed of this moment since junior year. Downstairs, the sounds of chaos were already beginning. Someone was shouting about floral arrangements. Another voice barked orders about catering deliveries. Her older sister, Madison, was getting married in 2 months, and the Dawson household in Seattle had turned into a makeshift wedding command center. Emily glanced at the letter one more time before slipping it back into the envelope. She hadn't told anyone yet. Not her parents, not Madison. Not because she didn't want to, but because there hadn't been a single moment of quiet in weeks. She pulled on a hoodie and headed downstairs. The scent of vanilla candles mixed with fried eggs filled the kitchen. Her mom, Karen, was on the phone, frantically scribbling into a wedding planner while her dad, Mark, stood by the fridge in a tuxedo t-shirt, sipping coffee and scrolling through Pinterest for rustic, elegant wedding ideas. "Morning," Emily mumbled, reaching for the cereal box. "Emmy, honey," Karen said, not looking up from her notebook. "Can you remind me to confirm the centerpieces by noon? Also, did you RSVP to your sister's bridal shower on the app?" Emily opened her mouth to speak, then paused. She was used to being background noise. "I will," she replied instead, grabbing a spoon and sinking into her chair. Across the room, Madison floated in wearing a silk robe and full glam, even though it was barely 8 a.m., UCLA hoodie again, she teased with a smirk. "Manifesting much?" Emily looked up, heart skipping. I got in." The room fell quiet for a second. "That's great," Mark said, distracted. "Hey, what do you think about these mason jar lanterns, babe?" he asked Karen. Madison clapped her hands once, more performative than sincere. "Well, look at you. But you know the real challenge is affording it, right?" Karen gave a tight smile. "Of course it is. College isn't cheap." The mood shifted. Emily felt it, something brittle behind their expressions. Her spoon clinked against the bowl as she forced herself to keep eating. Later that evening, as Emily sat in her room trying to map out dorm costs and housing applications, she opened the family's shared financial folder on the desktop. It was password protected. That was odd, it never had been before. She tried her usual guesses. Dawson 2020, Madison 123, even Karen Mark. Nothing worked. Downstairs, laughter erupted from the living room. Emily tiptoed to the hallway, watching from the top of the stairs as her parents and Madison sat around a binder filled with receipts, brochures, and contracts. "I still think the gold leaf invites were too much," Mark said, chuckling. "No, they were iconic," Madison insisted, sipping rose. Karen leaned forward. "We've already committed. We're not skimping, not on our only daughter's wedding." "Only daughter?" Emily's fingers curled around the banister. The phrase hit her like cold water. She wasn't invisible. She was forgotten. She backed into her room, closing the door quietly. Her chest tightened as she opened her college budget spreadsheet. Tuition, books, meals, rent, it was all calculated down to the cent. She'd been told all her life that the college fund was locked in, that she wouldn't have to worry, that as long as she got in, her parents would handle the rest. She remembered the day they opened the account. She was 8. Madison was 10. Karen had baked a cake to celebrate. For their futures, she'd said proudly. The cake had both their names in pink icing. Now, Emily wasn't so sure that cake had been meant for both of them. She didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, each turn echoing the one sentence Madison had said earlier. The real challenge is affording it. The next morning, Emily woke up to her mom yelling again. Not in anger, but in stress. "I said the deposit was due last week," she shouted into the phone. "No, we're not downgrading the venue." She walked past her daughter's room without a glance. Emily decided then she had to know. After everyone left for dress fittings, she tried the computer again. Still locked. Desperate, She snuck into her dad's office, where he usually kept backups of everything. There, in a plain file folder marked Wedding, she found the bank statements. She flipped through the most recent one. Her heart plummeted. The college fund, hers, was drained. Completely empty. At the bottom of the page, one large transaction stood out. Venue deposit, $47,000.
Her ears rang.
Her vision blurred. She sat down slowly, the folder trembling in her hands. A sound tried to escape her throat, but nothing came out. She'd always known Madison was the favorite. But this was theft. This was betrayal. She clutched the paper as though it could ground her. Downstairs, a car door slammed. Voices filtered in. They were back. Emily barely had time to tuck the folder back into its drawer before she heard the front door open. The sound of Madison's heels clicked against the hardwood like a countdown. She bolted up the stairs, her pulse pounding in her throat, and locked herself in her room. Her hands shook as she clutched her phone. Should she call someone? Tell someone? But who would believe her? Her parents? They took the money. Madison? She would probably smirk and say Emily should be honored to contribute to the most important day of her life. That evening, dinner felt like sitting at a stranger's table. Karen had made lemon chicken. Madison talked nonstop about chair covers and champagne towers. Mark laughed like everything was fine. Emily sat silently, replaying the bank statement in her mind. So, Karen said suddenly, placing her fork down, any updates on college stuff, Em? Emily looked up slowly.
Yeah.
I got in. To UCLA. Mark smiled. That's fantastic, honey. Madison fake clapped again. Dream school, right? Emily stared at them. It was. Until I realized I can't afford it. Karen blinked. What do you mean? I checked the fund. It's empty. There was a beat of silence. Then Mark spoke, his voice suddenly guarded. Why were you looking at that? You mean the college account that was supposed to be mine? She shot back. The one you said would be waiting for me if I got in?
Karen sighed.
Emily, listen. Things changed. Weddings are expensive. You stole my future for a wedding. Don't be dramatic, Karen snapped. It's still your future. We'll figure something out.
When?
After the honeymoon? After you buy her a new car as a wedding gift. You don't understand the pressure we're under, Mark said, raising his voice. You think weddings just pay for themselves? Emily pushed her chair back. You could have told me. You didn't even ask. Karen stood too, voice tight. You're being selfish. This is your sister's moment. Emily's laugh was bitter. You've given her every moment. She stormed upstairs, slammed the door, and sank onto the bed, chest heaving. Her phone buzzed. Madison had sent a meme about PRICELESS. Emily stared at it in disbelief. Then came a knock. Madison's voice called. Can I come in? Emily didn't respond, but the door creaked open anyway. I just wanted to say, I didn't know they were using your money, but I'm sure they'll fix it. Emily turned, eyes blazing. You knew they were paying for all of this somehow. Don't act like you didn't wonder where the cash was coming from. Madison crossed her arms, leaning against the doorframe. Look, I didn't ask questions. It's not like I forced them. You didn't have to, Emily whispered. You just exist, and everything is handed to you. There was a pause. You know, Madison said, her voice suddenly cooler, you always had this chip on your shoulder, like you were owed something. Maybe you should have applied somewhere cheaper. Emily stood. Get out. Madison shrugged, walking out like nothing happened. Later that night, Emily opened her college email portal. The deadline to confirm her spot was ticking closer. 2 weeks. She clicked through scholarship options, then paused on the student loan calculator. Her jaw clenched as she typed in estimated costs. The number was overwhelming, debt that would take years to pay off. All because her parents prioritized flowers and fairy lights over her education. The next morning, she tried to talk to her parents again. She found Karen in the backyard with a wedding planner. I'm not letting this go, Emily said, cutting to the chase. You used money that wasn't yours. Karen looked up, visibly irritated. It was ours. We put it aside for you, yes, but things change, Emily. You promised me. Since I was a kid. Karen closed the planner. You're still young. You'll bounce back. Get a job, apply for aid. Your sister only gets married once. Emily stared. And I only get one shot at this. You're not being very supportive, Karen said coldly. Supportive? Emily repeated. You want me to clap while you ruin my future? Karen stood. You're acting entitled. Emily felt the walls closing in. That evening, she took a walk around the neighborhood to clear her head. The summer air was warm, but her skin was cold. As she passed the Mackenzie's house, longtime neighbors, she heard someone call her name. It was Mrs. Mackenzie, watering her hydrangeas. Emily, dear. Heard about UCLA? Congratulations. Emily smiled weakly. Thanks. You must be so excited. Your mom mentioned they were dipping into your college fund for the wedding. That's such a big sacrifice. What a good sister you are. Emily froze. She told you that? Oh, yes. Said you were totally on board. Emily's stomach flipped. Her mom hadn't just taken the money. She was rewriting the narrative, making her look compliant, generous. She walked home in a daze, her feet barely touching the pavement. As she approached the house, she noticed Madison's fiancé's car in the driveway. She didn't hate Tyler, but he was oblivious, more interested in craft beer and football than family drama. Emily walked past the living room window, and that's when she saw it. Karen, Mark, and Madison were sitting on the couch, facing Tyler. She's just going through a phase, Karen was saying. She's been acting out since the acceptance letter, Madison added, tone dripping with concern. She's jealous. She'll come around, Mark said. She's a good kid. She just needs to learn it's not always about her. Emily stepped back from the window, heart pounding. They weren't just lying to others. They were gaslighting her. They were painting her as the villain in a story where they had robbed her. She went to her room and locked the door. Her chest felt hollow. Then the strangest thing happened. She received a text from an unknown number. They're not who you think they are. Check the back of the photo in the wedding box. Emily's blood ran cold. She turned slowly to her closet, where her mom had stored a box of old family wedding pictures, sentimental heirlooms Madison was using for inspiration. She opened it. Inside, beneath the lacy table runners and Polaroids, was a single envelope. She pulled it out. On the back of one photo, written in faded ink, were 6 chilling words. You were never meant to know. The handwriting haunted her. You were never meant to know. Emily stared at the faded scrawl for what felt like hours. It didn't look like her mother's handwriting. It wasn't her dad's either. It was slanted, sharp, almost frantic. And it was old. The photo it was written on was a yellowed, sepia-toned snapshot of a woman she didn't recognize, standing beside a wedding cake. Her fingers trembled as she pulled more photos from the box. At first, they looked ordinary. Smiling couples, pastel bridesmaid dresses, the typical family photo fare. But then she noticed something strange. In photo after photo, the same woman appeared, always in the background, never smiling, sometimes blurred behind the bride, other times at the edge of a group, always just enough out of focus to go unnoticed, unless you were looking. Emily flipped over another photo. Same handwriting. He promised I'd be part of it too. A cold sweat spread down her back. Who was she? Suddenly, the closet door creaked behind her. Emily spun around, but no one was there. The room felt colder than it had a moment ago. The box now looked less like wedding nostalgia and more like a sealed coffin. She shoved everything back in and slid it deep into the closet. She had to know the truth. And there was only one place that might have answers. Her grandmother's house. The next morning, Emily pretended to have a headache. Her parents barely noticed, too busy preparing party favors and finalizing seating charts. She slipped out the front door and took the bus across town to a quiet, vine-covered bungalow where her dad's mother, Lillian, lived. Lillian answered the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Emily? My goodness, it's been a while. I need to ask you something. About a woman in some old wedding photos. Lillian's expression faltered. She stepped aside. Come in. They sat in the sunroom. Lillian poured tea into china cups that clinked delicately as her hands trembled. "I found this," Emily said, showing her a photo she had secretly taken on her phone. "Who is she?" Lillian stared for a long moment. "Where did you get that?" "In a box at her house. For Madison's wedding." Lillian's lips tightened. That box should have been burned. Emily leaned forward. "Who is she?" Lillian hesitated, then whispered, "Her name was Margaret. Your father's older sister." Emily blinked. "Dad had a sister?" "She died when she was 20. On her wedding day." Emily's breath caught. "What?" "It was a closed casket funeral," Lillian said quietly. "They said it was an accident. But it wasn't. Not really." "What happened?" Lillian's hands trembled around her teacup. "Margaret wasn't like the others. She was quiet, private. She didn't like the attention Madison thrives on. But she had dreams. A scholarship to NYU. She was engaged to someone they didn't approve of. Your grandfather was furious." Lillian looked out the window. "And then one day, she was gone." The official story was a fall, slipped on the stairs the morning of her wedding. But there were rumors, whispers. And Mark, he changed after that. Emily felt the walls shift around her. "Why didn't anyone ever tell me?" "Because your father made us promise not to. He said it was better to forget. To focus on the future." Emily's voice cracked. "He used my future to rewrite history." Lillian looked up, her eyes glassy. "You're not like them. You see what's really there. That's dangerous in this family." Emily left in a daze. That night, she lay awake, the shadows on her ceiling swimming like ink. Her phone buzzed again, another anonymous message. "They need her to live the life Margaret couldn't. You were the backup plan." She sat up, heart hammering. The next morning, she woke to find the closet door open. The wedding box was gone. She ran downstairs. "Where's the box for my room?" Karen didn't even look up from her laptop. "I packed it up. You're obviously not in the wedding mood." Emily's voice rose. "You went through my stuff?" "I cleaned. You sulk." Emily stormed outside, fists clenched. The only person who might help her now, might believe her, was Tyler. She texted him. "I need to talk. It's serious. Please." To her surprise, he replied quickly. "Meet me at the coffee shop. 20 minutes. She grabbed the phone and left. At the cafe, Tyler looked surprised by her expression. "Are you okay?" "No," she said, sliding into the booth. "I think your fiancé is being used. For something dark." Tyler frowned. "Emily, I found out about Margaret. Mark's sister. The wedding. The fall. No one talks about her, but they're recreating it. Madison's dress looks exactly like Margaret's. The venue is the same. Even the cake." Tyler's face paled. "How do you even know that?" "I saw the photos. I went to Lillian."
She stopped.
He was staring behind her. Karen stood at the door, expression blank, eyes cold. She didn't walk in. She just watched. Emily turned to Tyler. "They're trying to erase me." "Emily," he said slowly, "maybe you're just under a lot of stress."
"No," she snapped.
"Don't do that. Don't call me crazy." "I didn't say that." But his tone had shifted. He didn't believe her. No one would. When she got home, her laptop was gone. Her phone history erased. Even her scholarship application folder was missing. Her mother smiled too much. Her father said nothing. That night, Emily sat in the dark, shaking. And then she heard it. From the hallway. A whisper. A soft, aching voice. "You were never meant to know." She stepped into the hallway. And the lights went out. Emily froze in the hallway, heart pounding against her ribs like it wanted out. The silence was heavy, unnatural. No hum of electricity. No chirping from outside. Just the thick weight of darkness pressing in. Then creak. Floorboards down the hall. She reached blindly along the wall, fingers trembling over the cold plaster until she found her phone. The flashlight flicked on, a weak beam cutting through the dark. "Hello," she whispered. "Is someone there?" The light fell on the wedding photo of Madison and Tyler that hung in the hallway. But something was wrong. Madison's face was distorted, smudged or melted somehow, like someone had rubbed it violently. And just beneath the glass frame, scratched into the wallpaper, "She'll finish what I couldn't." Emily gasped and backed away, straight into someone. She screamed, spinning around, only to find Mark standing there. He didn't flinch. His face was blank, emotionless. "What are you doing up?" he asked softly. The power went out. Mark looked past her at the damaged photo. "Strange. Must be an old fuse. I'll take a look in the morning." Emily's breath hitched. "Did you do this?" Mark's eyes darkened. "Why would I?" She tried to move past him, but he blocked her. "You're not sleeping well." "Move, Dad." He stepped aside slowly, and she bolted down the stairs and into the backyard. She called Lillian from the porch. "Grandma, please, can I come stay with you tonight?" Lillian didn't ask questions.
Yes.
"I'll leave the porch light on." Emily packed in minutes and left without a word. At Lillian's house, things felt real again. Safe, even. Until Lillian handed her something. "I didn't show you this before."
I was scared.
"But you need to see it now." It was Margaret's journal. Worn, brittle, leather-bound. Emily opened to a marked page, dated 2 weeks before the wedding. "They're trying to trap me. Make me something I'm not. I overheard Dad say she has to walk down the aisle or the money dies with her." "What money? What agreement? I don't want this wedding."
I don't want any of this.
"If I disappear, tell someone." Beneath it, a small symbol. An Ouroboros. A snake eating its own tail. Emily's voice trembled. "What does it mean?" Lillian exhaled. "It's old. Very old. Legacy. Inheritance. Bloodlines. Some say it's tied to ritualistic traditions passed through generations. Others say it's just a symbol of eternal return." "Do you think they killed her?" "I don't know," Lillian said. "But something tells me this wedding, it's meant to finish what started with Margaret." Emily's head spun. "What if I'm next?" Lillian clasped her hand. "Not if we stop it." That night, Emily crept back into the house while her parents were sleeping. She had to find that wedding box. If it was truly gone, it meant they were hiding it. If it was still in the house, maybe it held the final piece. She started in the attic. Boxes and boxes, labeled holidays, memories, graduation, but no wedding box. Then something strange, a loose floorboard. She pulled it up, heart racing. Below it, an iron box, locked with a latch. And inside, after prying it open with an old hammer, documents. Dozens of them. Some dated decades back. Financial records. A will. A clause. Her father's name. Her grandfather's. And a clause circled in red ink. In the event of the firstborn daughter's absence, the estate shall pass to the next eldest female heir, provided she completes the marital union within the legacy grounds. Emily whispered the words aloud. Legacy grounds. The venue. It wasn't just sentimental. It was legal. A binding clause in some old money family contract. Margaret's death voided it. Unless Madison got married there. And Emily? She was the legal heir. They needed her out of the picture.
She didn't wait.
She drove to the venue. The main hall was empty, beautifully decorated. Soft music played through unseen speakers. White petals lined the aisle. And in the center of it all, Karen, wearing the same dress as Margaret's from the photos. She turned slowly. You just couldn't leave it alone, could you? Emily's voice shook. What is this? Why are you doing this to me? Karen smiled. It was never about you. It was about what you represent. Your bloodline. Your rights. Your control over something you don't even understand. Then explain it. Karen walked forward, her heels echoing. This family is bound by legacy. Power doesn't just pass, it's orchestrated. You were never supposed to get that scholarship, Emily. You were never supposed to matter. You took everything from me. No, Karen said. You gave it up. When you resisted. When you started digging. All we needed was your silence. Emily stepped backward. Where's Dad? Preparing. The paperwork has to be signed before the ceremony. And Tyler. Well, he just needs to show up and say, I do. Emily's stomach turned. You're marrying him off to Madison just for inheritance? Karen laughed. It's not just about the money. It's about the bloodline. The continuation. Your father promised he'd fix what happened to Margaret. And he will. Emily clenched her fists. Over my dead body. Karen's smile faded. That's the idea. Before Emily could react, security lights flickered on outside. Voices, doors, footsteps. Tyler, Madison, and Mark walked in from the back entrance. Emily backed into the center of the aisle. Mark looked tired. Cold. I told you not to push. I know about Margaret. I know about the clause. You want me gone so Madison inherits. You were a mistake, he said. We tried to give you something better. But you fought us. Madison rolled her eyes. You always ruin everything, Em. This could have been beautiful. You're insane, Emily said. All of you. You're the only one who still thinks that, Mark said. Now sign the waiver. Relinquish your rights. And walk away. Emily stood silent. Then ripped the paper in half. Mark's eyes widened. Karen screamed. Emily ran. The wind howled behind her as Emily burst out of the wedding venue's side doors. Her feet pounded across the gravel path, lungs burning, throat raw from panic and betrayal. Every light in the building flickered like it could shatter at any moment. Something inside her had already shattered. She didn't stop running until she reached the forest edge, the shadows wrapping around her like a cloak of protection. Somewhere behind her, she could hear yelling, voices clashing, orders being barked, Madison screaming at someone to find her. But Emily didn't look back. She climbed into her car, slammed the door shut, and peeled out of the parking lot.
She didn't even remember the drive.
The next morning, Lillian's kitchen smelled like burnt toast and cheap coffee. Emily sat at the table, a blanket over her shoulders, hands trembling around a chipped mug. I called the police, Lillian said softly. They're going to investigate the documents. And the venue. Emily nodded, hollow-eyed. They won't find anything. You don't know that.
No, she said.
I do. Because by the time the police arrived at the venue that morning, it had already been cleared out. No decorations. No documents. No strange symbols carved into the pews or wedding registers that weren't actually about marriage. No sign of Mark, Karen, or Madison. Vanished. All of them. Lillian placed a small box in front of her. They left this at the front steps. Inside, nestled on black velvet, was the Ouroboros necklace. Margaret's. The one Emily had seen in the photos. The one no one ever acknowledged. Attached was a note in handwriting that wasn't familiar. You were never supposed to find out. Now that you have, be careful what you carry. Emily didn't cry. Not then. She just sat there as the cold realization settled into her bones. This was far from over. The days blurred together after that. Detective Jameson came by often, asking the same questions with different words. Did your father ever mention a family trust? Have you seen your mother or sister since that night? Do you believe this was a cult? Or something else? Emily answered as best as she could. She told them everything. About Margaret, the clause in the will, the photos, the scratch in the wallpaper. About the hidden documents, the wedding, and the confrontation. But every lead dried up. Every person who could corroborate mysteriously disappeared or claimed ignorance. Eventually, the case was filed as domestic estrangement and mental stress. Unresolved. Unacknowledged. Filed away. Just like Margaret. Emily didn't return to college. Her scholarship, once promised, was permanently revoked. The financial support was never reinstated. She took up a small job at a bookstore in a nearby town. Quiet. Off the radar. She changed her last name. Started over. Or tried to. But the past had claws. Sometimes she'd see her father's face in the crowd. Or hear Karen's voice whispering something cruel and subtle in the hum of fluorescent lights. She kept Margaret's journal with her. Every day. Every night. A reminder that truth doesn't always win, but it matters. Months later, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside, a single newspaper clipping. Local bride killed in mysterious fire hours before wedding. Investigators baffled. A photo showed the remnants of an estate, reduced to ash and bone. The bride's name? Madison Walker. Emily read the article over and over. Then again. And again. It mentioned the wedding was to be held on private land, owned by the Walker family. She hadn't even known they moved. She hadn't known they still intended the wedding. But something or someone had stopped it. A small smile crept onto Emily's lips for the first time in weeks. Not because she was happy Madison was gone, but because it meant the chain had been broken. Someone didn't finish what was started. She kept going. Some days were worse than others. Nightmares came often, weddings where she was the bride, blood in the aisle, guests wearing masks with Margaret's face. Other times, she'd dream of a girl standing in a white dress at the edge of a lake, whispering her name. But she stayed grounded. She wrote it all down. Every word, every memory. She turned Margaret's journal into something new, filled it with truth, pain, and recovery. She made a vow that no one else would have to go through what she did. On the one-year anniversary, she returned to the venue grounds. Nothing remained, just a rusted gate, overgrown grass, a stone with the words Legacy Hill barely visible through moss and dirt. She sat there for hours,
Talking.
out loud, to herself, to Margaret, to no one. "I'm still here," she whispered, "and I'm still fighting." A gentle wind stirred the grass, curling around her ankle like a ribbon. She closed her eyes, and for a moment, just a moment, she felt peace. Emily never got the apology she deserved,
The justice.
the acknowledgement, but she did get her story back. She didn't let them erase her like they did Margaret. And in a world built on legacy, silence, and control, that was its own form of victory. Because some stories aren't meant to be told for closure. Some stories are meant to warn the next girl who asks too many questions. The next girl who trusts the wrong people. The next girl who sees the signs but stays anyway. She won't be alone. Not anymore. They took my future. But they'll never have my voice.